Greetings. Today is 2/11/2019. This video will be about seals 5 through 7. And I want to start off by saying that these videos that I've been doing, they're not meant to be encouraging or discouraging. They're specifically meant to be tools, maps for these final 14 years. Now I don't know what's going to happen after the Passover pilgrimage, the first rapture, the removal of the wise virgins in the Church of Philadelphia, the elders of Revelation. I don't know what happens after that as far as how society is going to react and whether or not the internet will be down or power will be down. I'm not 100% sure on all that. So I wanted to get these videos out prior to Passover 2019. So I'm not being as precise as I would like to be. They're not as entertaining or appealing to the eye as other video producers, etc., but their main purpose is to be a tool, a map to help you all navigate the future. And one thing about this timeline, the difference between this timeline and others, is that I did not force scripture to fit the timeline or the pre-conditioned narrative that I had in my mind. I forced my mind and the timeline to fit into scripture, and that's why everything has been falling into place. I haven't had to adjust it since I made it. And I just wanted to let you guys know that I forced the timeline to fit the scriptures. Okay, so starting off with the seals 5 to 7 here with the fifth seal. The fifth seal is the first tribulation event that the Messiah speaks of. Now, of course, we all go through personal trials and tribulations, but the Messiah himself, in Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21, specifically speaks of two distinct events that he refers to as the tribulations. The first one he calls the tribulation, and the second one he calls the great tribulation. And both of them are only short periods of times when believers are killed for faith in him. They're not the long periods of time that a majority of Christianity teaches, the 3.5 years or the 7 years. No. Those teachings are bogus, they're in error. The tribulation events are only short periods of time. It's the time when believers are killed for faith in him. So the whole notion, the whole premise of a pre, mid, and post-tribulation, it's all based upon an error. Okay? So all them teachings that Christianity has been taught for the past 100 years or 200 years, whatever it is, they're all based on an error. The Messiah tells us very clearly, if you examine closely his words, that these events are only short time periods. So, in Matthew 24, so like we talked about in the last video, Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21, they are all the Messiah telling us the seals. Many years in advance to John being given the revelation. So the Messiah tells us seals 2 through 7 in Matthew 24, Mark 13, Luke 21, and they match the seals given to us in Revelation 6. And this chart I made up for the last video, and these are the confirmations, the matches. Okay. So, the fifth seal is Revelation 6, 9 to 11, Matthew 24, 9 to 10, Mark 13, 9 to 13, Luke 21, 16 to 17. Okay, and in Matthew 24, this is what it says. So up here, 7 to 8 are seals 2 to 4, which are the beginning of the birth pangs. Okay. Then seal 5 is they will deliver you to tribulation and kill you. Okay, there it is. Very crystal clear. This is the first tribulation, seal 5, and it has to do with believers being killed. Alright? And then, like I said in the last video, 15 to 28 is a little bit of a curveball, because he's giving those in Judea a heads up about what comes after the seals. That's all this is. It's like a parenthesis. Giving the people in Judea at that time a heads up that it's going to be crazy. But then he comes back to the seals and he clarifies it by saying immediately after the tribulation. So then we know that it's right here, immediately after this, which this is the fifth seal. So immediately after this is this, which is the sixth seal. I should say the beginning of the sixth seal. The sixth seal plays out longer than the other seals. If we look at the timeline, if the timeline is accurate, it would be basically from 2020, spring of 2024 to the Pentecost period of 2026, spring summer of 2026. The sixth seal would play out in that 2-year period. Because I personally believe that the great earthquake will be in response to the fifth seal. So that's the Messiah saying he is ticked off. Boom, great earthquake. Then the sun became black as sackcloth, right here, the great American solar eclipse. The moon became as blood, the blood moon triad from spring of 2025 to spring of 2026. And then after this will be the wormhole opening up for New Jerusalem to come through. Okay, that's how I see it playing out, and it fits the timeline. So when I have spoken about this in the past, people argued about me trying to be too accurate or too precise. And so my question is, can an air traffic controller be too precise when he's directing air traffic? Can a 9/11 operator be too precise when she's telling the police where to respond to? You want her giving an address down the street, or do you want the police to respond to your address immediately? So we want precision and accuracy from these other things, but when it comes to the scriptures, it's like, we get the picture. Well, no, we don't. Because the whole premise of pre, mid, post-tribulation, it's all based upon an error. They're not long periods of time. And the Messiah tells us clearly what they are. The first tribulation is the fifth seal martyrs. And the second tribulation, the great tribulation, is when the beasts set up the mark and kill everybody who refused to take it. They are the tribulations, the short period. So the fifth tribulation, the fifth seal, if the timeline is accurate, the fifth seal only has a year to occur. Because immediately after that, the beginning of the sixth seal. Okay? So this isn't going on for a long time. This is at the most a year. And then, of course, over here, the mark only goes on, the killing only goes on for 45 days. From the end of the 1290 to the 1335. After that, it's done. So it's only a 45-day period for the Great Tribulation. The Great Tribulation is only 45 days, period. The fifth seal at the most is a year. And it's not the whole of believers that go through the fifth seal. It's only a specific number. It's only some. Not all of Christianity, not all believers. Now, I believe the fifth seal is intertwined with the 144,000. And I have a pretty good case here. Yeah, I can't say for 100% certainty, but once you hear me out, I think you'll see what I'm talking about. So when you look at the fifth seal, the wording of the fifth seal, and the wording of the 144,000, they have the same components: a number, their servants, and their brethren. Okay? The only difference is that the fifth seal is during the seals, and the 144,000 gets sealed at the seventh seal and then sent back to testify, to witness for the 1260 days. And the fifth seal martyrs are told to wait a little while prior to being avenged. And the tribe of Dan was prophesied to wait for salvation in Genesis 49. So what am I saying? I was saying the missing tribe of Dan in the book of Revelation is right here, the fifth seal. The fifth seal martyrs are believers with DNA from the tribe of Dan. They are genetically from the tribe of Dan. They are genetically from Jacob. They probably don't know it, but they are. Israel prophesied about his sons in Genesis 49, and he said that the tribe of Dan, let's go look at it. Okay. Dan shall judge his people as one of the tribes of Israel. He shall be a serpent by the way, an adder in the path that biteth the horse heels, so that the rider shall fall backward. I have waited for thy salvation, O Almighty. For your salvation I wait, O Almighty. Okay, so what this is right here, 16 to 18, is this harken back to Rachel in Genesis 30 when she's barren and not having not able to have children. She gives Jacob her maid, right here, Bila, I don't know how to say it, but right there it is. And she bears Dan. And Rachel said that the Almighty judged her case and heard her voice and gave her a son. As we see right here, and Rachel said, the Almighty judged my case, heard my voice, gave me a son. She's going to name him Dan, which is based upon the Almighty judging her case. Okay? And then we see the meanings of this word in the Hebrew: to judge, administer, defend, dispute, execute, judgment, govern, judge, plead, strive, vindicate, or to set the direction of a sail with a straight course. Okay? So what's occurring here in Genesis 49 in this prophecy is that Dan is fulfilling what his name means, what his mother named him. He's fulfilling it. So Dan shall vindicate his people. Dan shall set the sail of his people on a straight course. And here's the big one right here. As one of the tribes, okay, because everybody says he's missing in Revelation. But right here, this prophecy declares that he has to be as one of the tribes. He doesn't get excommunicated. He doesn't get erased. No. As one of the tribes. Right there it is. Now right here, this serpent, by the way, causes the rider to fall backwards. I'm pretty sure that means when the tribe of Dan was into idolatry and influenced Israel negatively, mainly the northern kingdom. And then finally, for your salvation I wait. I have waited for your salvation. Okay? So, I believe that the fifth seal martyrs are the tribe of Dan. And they are killed for their testimony, just like the 144,000 is going to be killed, eventually killed for their testimony. And they all have DNA from Jacob. They're all brethren. Okay. So let's look at here's a little chart here. Got the similarities of the fifth seal martyrs and the 144,000. They have a number. They're servants. They're brethren. They're killed for their faith and testimony, and then they are judged and avenged. Okay. So in Revelation 11 to 13 is when the 144,000 are judged and avenged, which is basically in response to when they are killed by the beasts. The beasts kill them for refusing. I believe they're the first to refuse the mark. They set the example. Just like the Messiah, they offer themselves up. The beasts kill them for refusing the mark. They lay dead in the streets for 3 days, and then they're judged, told to, resurrected, told to come up, raptured up, and then avenged with the earthquake and etc., etc. Then we have the similarities between the fifth seal martyrs and the tribe of Dan. So Dan shall judge his people. We got Genesis 49:16. And the fifth seal martyrs are saying this, or declaring this as a tribe. So we got brethren, and they wait for salvation, and then they're told to wait a little while. Let's look at that. Okay, so we got Daniel. So right here. And when he had opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls of them that were slain for the word of the Almighty and for the testimony which they had. Now, right here, this is literally the word of the Almighty. Okay? And that's revealed in Mark. Mark is the most precise concerning this. Okay? And this is talking about the fifth seal in Mark. But take heed to yourselves, for they shall deliver you up to councils, and in the synagogues ye shall be beaten, and ye shall be brought before rulers and kings for my sake, for a testimony against them. And the gospel must first be published among all nations. But when they shall lead you and deliver you up, take no thought beforehand what ye shall speak. Neither do ye premeditate. But whatsoever shall be given you in that hour, that speak ye, for it is not ye that speak, but the Holy Ghost, the Holy Spirit, the Spirit of the Messiah. So it's literally the word of the Almighty, the word of the Messiah. Literally. Okay? And they cried with a loud voice, saying, How long, O Master, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell in the earth? So there it is, the judging and the avenging. And white robes were given unto them, and it was said unto them that they should rest. So this is the wait right here, for a little season, until their fellow servants, the servants, their brethren, that should be killed as they were, should be fulfilled. Okay, so what is this? Okay. What is this fulfilling right here? Well, it's the 144,000. Okay. The fifth seal martyrs are not all the believers during the hour of the trial. It is only a specific number, and that's revealed in Luke 21. Okay. Right here, Luke 21:16, and some of you shall they cause to be put to death. Okay? So it's only some. Not all of Christianity. It's only some. And this case that I'm presenting is that it's a specific amount of people from the tribe with DNA from the tribe of Dan. Now, we see right after the fifth seal, which is immediately after the tribulation of those days, the sixth seal, right? Let's go to Matthew 24. Immediately after the tribulation of those days. So immediately after the fifth seal, the beginning of the sixth seal. Mark 13. After the tribulation. So after the fifth seal, the sixth seal. Okay, and Luke 21. Okay, so after the fifth seal, the sixth seal, and Matthew 24 specifies that it's immediate, okay? Immediately after the fifth seal, the sixth seal. And what I believe this is telling us right here is that the first thing that happens when the Messiah cracks open the sixth seal is a great earthquake. And I used to think that it was going to be in America because of the Passover mark, the Tav that is painted over America with the two great American solar eclipses. But I don't think it's going to be in America. I mean, it's a possibility, but it could be. But I think it's going to be exactly wherever the main part of the fifth seal martyrs are killed, which I think there's a strong possibility it will be in the area of Syria or Turkey or Lebanon, somewhere in there. Because the tribe of Dan were seafarers and they went along the Mediterranean up towards Greece. Many people believe, which I believe, is that the Spartans were actually from the tribe of Dan. So that whole coastline of Syria and Turkey, I think many of them people, their DNA is linked to Dan. So I think there's a strong possibility that Christians in Turkey or Syria, they're the ones that may be the main portion of the fifth seal martyrs. And I think, I'm not 100% on this, but the great earthquake, when the Messiah opens the sixth seal, the great earthquake is right in the area where they were killed, where they're martyred. Because the sixth seal is in response to the fifth seal. Okay, the Messiah sees his people martyred, and he's responding. So the wrath of the Lamb trumpets, the first 3.5 years of the wrath is in response to the fifth seal. It's a snowball from the fifth seal. And then the bowls of wrath of the Almighty is in response to the mark of the beast, which is the beast killing the new believers and the 144,000. And the Almighty is responding with his wrath. And then it's finished by the Messiah when he comes down and kills all who have the mark and throws the fallen angels into the lake of fire, and then locks up the rebel angels, the 10 horns, locks them up into the abyss for them to wait their judgment at the end of the 1,000 years. So the sixth seal is the beginning of the response of the Messiah to the fifth seal martyrs. So that's why I believe that the earthquake will be right exactly where the epicenter of where the martyrdom takes place. And I think the strongest possibility for that is Turkey or Syria. And the only reason why I say Syria, I think Turkey's the stronger possibility, but I say Syria because Saul was on the road to the synagogues of Damascus to arrest those of the way, to bring them back to Jerusalem, basically to execute them. And I thought the fact that it was to the synagogues may be a clue, or may not. Time will tell, but I do believe that the earthquake will happen at the epicenter of where the fifth seal martyrdom occurs. Okay, and then the sixth seal, which is in response to the fifth seal. The great earthquake, the sun becomes black as sackcloth, the moon becomes as blood. This is the start of the sixth seal. This is the beginning. And on the timeline, so if this eclipse is a celestial signal of the beginning of the fifth seal, well, then that would be around April 20th, 2023. And then if the martyrdom's occurring in this year, somewhere in here, will be the great earthquake. And then we have the great American solar eclipse, sun turning black as sackcloth. And then we have the blood moon triad, the moon turning as blood. So this is the beginning period of the sixth seal, right here. Then the end of the sixth seal is the return of the Father and Son and all of those in New Jerusalem. Okay? Which will be in this time period, somewhere in here, spring 2026. It says that the stars of heaven fall, heaven departs as a scroll. Okay, so right here is the gigantic wormhole. Right now, the stars of heaven falling, this is in response to the wormhole opening up, the massive amounts of energy that the Almighty is exerting to open this wormhole to bring New Jerusalem through. Alright, we're talking something almost as big as the moon. So a wormhole that has to fit the moon through opens up right outside of our atmosphere. Alright, now imagine the chaos. Well, this is the chaos right here. The Almighty starts to open the wormhole, and the stars of heaven start to fall from the energy. Heaven departs as a scroll. This is the opening of the wormhole being seen, which is the sign of the Son of Man. The opening of the wormhole is the sign that everybody sees. Okay? Then the mountain and islands are moved because this event, this energy, disturbs our rotation, which affects the G-forces that hold the Earth's crust in place, and that's why all the mountains and islands move. And then all humans hide in fear. Well, come on, I mean, imagine it. You're seeing a wormhole right outside of our atmosphere opening up, and this brilliant city, almost the size of the moon, made of diamond, made of a diamond shell, come through the wormhole, and is hovering right there, right outside of our atmosphere. All right. Well, if you don't know what's going on, if you don't know the Messiah, if you're not one of his people covered in his blood, yeah, you would be hiding in fear. And this whole process occurs over about a 2-year period and ends with New Jerusalem coming through the wormhole and being here right outside of our atmosphere in power and glory on top of the clouds of heaven. Okay? Then the seventh seal is the day of redemption, when all believers of all time, dead and alive, are gathered into the clouds to enter into New Jerusalem. And this event is the final war preparation before the war in heaven. Okay? So many people in Christianity try saying that the last trump is the last of the 7 trumpets. No, that's error. It's false. It's not correct. The last trump is a military slogan, a military term, and Paul confirms this, and I believe it's 1 Corinthians 14:8. Yes, right here. For if the trumpet give an uncertain sound, who shall prepare for the battle? Right? Now, when Paul was talking about the last trump and the trump giving an uncertain sound, everybody in this time, his audience, knew exactly what he was talking about. Right? They're not a bunch of numbskulls like us here in the future. They knew exactly what he was talking about, because the ancient Israelites and the Roman legions did a similar thing, and I'm sure you've seen this on the movies too. They would blow trumpets as to signal what time of the preparation for the war it was. So, for as an example, they would do a certain blast of the trumpet, and it would let them know that, okay, we have 5 hours or a half a day or a quarter of a day until we mount up to move out for the battle. And then they would do another one, a different sound, and it would say, okay, now we're down to 2 hours. And they would do another one, and, all right, final hour. Well, the last trump was, that's it, no more time to prepare, it is time to go. Time to mount up, time to march out. It's go time. Are you ready for a war? Is what the last trump is saying. It's time to go. And that's what's happening right here at the 7th seal. When the Messiah returns in New Jerusalem, when he comes through the wormhole with New Jerusalem, he sends out coming on top of the clouds of the sky with power and great glory. He sends out his angels with the great trumpet to gather together his people. All right? And this is in preparation for the war. All right? That's what this is. It's the last trumpet sounding for the final preparation for the war. And what is the final preparation? The Messiah removing his people and securing them into New Jerusalem so he can commence the war and doesn't have to worry about his people getting caught in the crossfire. That's what's going on right here. He's gathering his people, even the dead, because the earth is going to be hit hard. As we see in the first trumpet, woe to the earth and to the sea for the war in heaven. Woe to the earth and to the sea. Well, the first trumpet hits the earth and the second trumpet hits the sea. So he even removes the dead at the seventh seal, the day of redemption, because he's securing them, because the earth is about to get tore up too. And the dead are resting in the earth. So he removes all of his people. Well, he sends the angels out to do it. Gathers them up to the clouds and then brings them into New Jerusalem. And this is all seen in Revelation 7. Okay. So Revelation 6 was the first 6 seals. The 6th seal occurs. New Jerusalem comes through. The Messiah is here. And then the gathering into the clouds to go into New Jerusalem is the 7th seal. And all of Revelation 7 is the 7th seal. And the 144,000 are gathered up into the clouds, into New Jerusalem, with the believers. Because they are believers. Alright? Right here. Sealed the servants of the Almighty. You can't be a servant as an unbeliever. Alright? They are believers prior to being sealed. And Revelation 12, that's why we see it in Revelation 12, that when the 144,000 are born, when the 144,000 are born, she brought forth the man-child, which is the 144,000. She is spiritual Israel. So the 144,000 are believers. That's why they're a child of spiritual Israel. She burst them. Did a rule. This is a clue of what church they are, of the 7 churches. And it says her child was caught up unto the Almighty, to his throne. So that tells us right there that the 144,000 are caught up with the other believers into the clouds, brought into New Jerusalem. They're at the throne. And it's at this time, when they're at the throne in New Jerusalem, that's when they get sealed and commissioned. They get sealed here, and you see their commissioning in Revelation 11 when they're given the power. Alright? And them devouring their enemies from the fire that proceeds out of their mouth. That's metaphoric, alright? It's the same principle as they're able to call down fire, like in the army or the Marines or whatever. When you're in a forward operating position and you're observing the enemy, you can call down fire. Or if you're in a firefight, you can call down fire. It's the same principle. There isn't fire literally coming out of these 144,000's mouths like dragons. No. That's a metaphor for they have communication. either directly with New Jerusalem or their ship that they come down from New Jerusalem in, the place prepared for them by the Almighty, which is another ship. Okay? And that's seen in Revelation 8. Right here. This golden censer. Alright. It's a ship. Right? It's just, that's what it looks like. And let's see. I have a picture of that censer somewhere. So this is the Temple Institute and some of the pictures of the things. This might be it right here. No, I don't think it is. Okay. That's not it. Hold on. Measuring cups. Nope. Okay, we're getting there. Alright, this is for the ashes. So you see the shape of it? Okay, that's for the washing of their hands and stuff. Ritual cleansing. Nor royal picture. Cleansing. I think I missed it. Oh, here, offering shovel. There it is, right there. This is the this instrument right here. It would be that censer of Revelation 8. And these are the ashes, the hot coals. Okay? So this is giving you a picture of what Revelation 8 is saying. But then it says that that the angel casts this censer to the earth. And when he does that, you see all the filled it with the fire, threw it to the earth, peals of thunder, sounds and flashes of lightning, and an earthquake. Alright, and what I believe is happening right here is this censer is the ship for the 144,000, and they are literally transported to Earth, and the energy of the transport causes this earthquake and the lightning and the boom and the etc. Alright? Now, here is the other. This also ties into the fifth seal martyrs. Okay, so. Okay, ready? I saw underneath the altar. Okay, now this shows that these fifth seal martyrs are separate from regular believers that die, because there's a waiting place in the earth for the dead. However, these fifth seal martyrs are underneath the altar. Okay? And they're already given their white robes. Okay, because we don't see the dead in the Messiah getting their white robes until Revelation 7. Right here. White robes and palm branches. See? Notice this group only has white robes and palm branches. But the wise virgins have golden crowns and thrones. Alright? And this is a great multitude which no one can count, but the wise virgins, the Church of Philadelphia, is only myriads of myriads, which is, I don't know the exact number. It's kind of hard to tell via the Greek and the Hebrew, but it's 10,000s, 10,000s. Is it 10,000 times 10,000s, which is 100 million, or is it tens of thousands or hundreds of thousands? I don't know. But it's definitely smaller than this number. Okay? So, back to 6. The fifth seal martyrs here, they are underneath the altar. They've already been given their white robes. They're told to rest, wait until their brethren are killed as they are. But notice what they're doing. They're crying out, "How long, Almighty, holy and true, will you refrain from judging and avenging our blood on those who dwell on the earth?" Because they were acting on behalf of the Almighty and the Messiah, testifying to the world, as we seen earlier, that they're literally given the words straight from the Holy Spirit of what to say, what to tell the world. And I believe they're telling them, your time's up. The Messiah and the Almighty's coming back. But my point here is about the fifth seal martyrs. This right here, this how long, this is this, that he should offer it with the prayers of all saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. Okay? And this is how the fifth seal martyrs, the tribe of Dan, is with the tribes of Israel. Right here. Now, do they literally join the 144,000 in the censer, and they stay within the censer, and they're the operators of the ship? I don't know. But long story short is that it's their prayers that are with the 144,000 when they get sent to the earth. This is it right here. This is how they're together, and this is how they're vindicating, guiding, setting the sail straight as one of the tribes of Israel. Right here. Their prayers being offered up with the event of the 144,000 going to testify for 1,260 days. Okay? That's how that's working out right there. And then we see the seventh seal also confirms the 14-year timeline. Because when you look it up in the Greek, right here, And when he had opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of half. Now the translators put an hour in here, but that is completely not necessary to put that in there. The only time this Greek word should be translated as a specific time, like meaning an hour or half an hour or whatever, is when it's dealing with a specific time. But when it isn't specified, which it isn't in the ancient Greece, it's talking about an appointed, divinely set aside period of time. So what this is really saying in the Greek is that when the Messiah opened the seventh seal, there was silence in heaven, in space, about the space of the halfway marker of the appointed period of time. Okay? Now, after this, we know that the rebel angels are cast down from space during the first four trumpets, and then the fallen angels are released from the abyss in trumpets 5 and 6. And as we see on the timeline, okay, so right here's the seventh seal. All believers are gathered up into New Jerusalem. Then this 30 days is the silence in heaven, in space. Okay? And then the censer, which is the 144,000, get thrown down or transported down right here, 9/11, and that's when the 1260 begins. So the 1290 begins at the removal of the sacrifice, which is believers. That's when the 1290 begins. 30 days later, the 1260 begins with the censer, which is the 144,000, transported to the earth, 9/11/2026. Then over this 2-day period, which is the Feast of Trumpets 2026, the first 5 trumpets occur. Boom, the earth gets hit. The earth is rotating. The second trumpet fires. Boom, the sea gets hit. All the chaos from the fallout. And then the beast is released. The first 5 trumpets occur over 2 days. Boom. And then 5 months later, which happens to be a solar eclipse, is the 6th trumpet, which is when the rest of the fallen angels are released. So now we have all the wicked spirits, Apollyon and his children, the spirits of his children, which are the demon spirits of the giants. So Apollyon and his children are released right here at the 5th trumpet, and then the rest of the fallen angels and the spirits of their dead children are released right here at the 6th trumpet. So now all the wicked evil spirits are on the earth, and this is what starts the 2300 days of the pollution spoken of in Daniel 8:14, with it being properly cleansed when the Messiah comes down. Okay? Now, I was saying all that because the final consummation of wrath, the final consummation of judgment, the indignation, the final 7 years can't start until the trumpets, the first trumpet. Okay? So we know that that has to be 7 years. So what I'm saying is that the seventh seal is the confirmation of the 14-year timeline, is because it's saying that the seventh seal is at the halfway point of the appointed time. And the seventh seal occurs right before the trumpets. So the trumpets is 3.5 years, the bowls is 3.5 years, that's the 7 years of the final consummation. So obviously the seals have to be 7 years. But we already knew that from Psalm 90 and Revelation 12. Now, so the 144,000 are sealed and commissioned during the 30 days that they are in New Jerusalem before the throne with the rest of the believers. Then they're sent back to earth, which is the golden censer of Revelation 8. And they're guided by the prayers of their fellow brethren, the tribe of Dan, which was the fifth seal martyrs. Okay? So, this event, when the 144,000 are sent back down, begins the 1260 day count, because the 144,000 are the two witnesses of Revelation 11. Alright? So that begins the 1260 day count. Now this is already 30 days in the 1290 day count, because the 1290 day count starts when the sacrifice is removed. Now Daniel, the sacrifices in Daniel are a little tricky, because there's two events. There's the removal of the sacrifice, which is Daniel 12:11, 9:26, and 8:11. Okay, so Daniel 12:11. From the time that the daily sacrifice shall be taken away, and the mark of the beast set up, there will be 1,290 days. Okay? So from the seventh seal to the mark of the beast will be 1,290 days. And then blessed is he that waiteth and cometh to the 1335. And this is the same blessed as in Revelation 14:13, I believe it is, where it is, blessed are they that die in the Messiah from here on. Well, this is the new believers being killed for refusing the mark. That's what this is. And the 45 days in between the end of the 1290 and the end of the 1335 is the Great Tribulation, right there. Okay? So this daily sacrifice being taken away is the seventh seal. 9:26. And it's the same event as right here. Oops. So Daniel 12:11, sacrifice being removed, is the same event as the anointed being cut off of Daniel 9:26, and it's also the same event in Daniel 8:11. So right here, when he's on the scene, the beasts, when they're on the scene, because they're on the scene, the sacrifice must be removed. So, because of the beast being released, the sacrifice has to be removed. That's this event, which is the same as the removing of the anointed in Daniel 9, and it's the same event as Daniel 12:11. Okay, so all these three events are the same events, which is the day of redemption, which is the sacrifice being removed. Okay, and right here in Daniel 8:11, it's removed because the beasts are coming. That's what it's saying here. All right. Then in Daniel 11:31, Daniel 9:27, and Daniel 8:12, it's the sacrifice being put to a stop. So that's the difference. They're the two differences of the sacrifices in Daniel. One event, the sacrifice is removed. The other event, the sacrifice is being put to a stop. Okay? And anybody who thinks that this is in reference to the temple sacrifices or the temple services, all right, they don't have any insight or any clue of what is going on at this period of time, all right? When the beasts are released, they are coming upon the scene in fury, conquering what's left of the earth with ease and annihilating many. There's no temple sacrifices. They trample the temple underfoot, and they say that they are in charge. They're trying to put themselves in place of the Almighty because they're showing how tough and dominant they are. There is no peace. There is no temple sacrifices. There is no temple services. All right. Whoever's teaching that baloney doesn't have a grasp on what's occurring during this time. All right. Number one, most of the earth is up in flames. North, South, Central America destroyed in the first trumpet. Pacific Ocean destroyed in the second trumpet. All the mountains and islands destroyed from the sixth seal. The only thing that's left basically is the Middle East and portions of Africa, Russia, and Asia, and maybe some of Europe. And then with the sixth trumpet, the beasts destroy to the north and to the east. So I would say that's Asia and either Russia and NATO together, or just Russia, whatever's left. But anyway, after the six trumpets, the only thing in earth that is habitable is the Middle East, which is the nations of Ezekiel 38. And the only reason why they're allowed to be left is because the 10 horns are princes over them nations since the time of Babel. Long story short, there's no peace. There's no temple services going on during this time. It's nothing but war, chaos, destruction, and the beasts are killing and taking over. And then when they set up the mark, it's not because they like humans. They view us as inferior. They're trying to make humans stronger because they want to. Their goal is to defeat the Messiah and take his throne. That's what this is all about. They want his throne. They want to be in charge. They want the kingdom. They're jealous that he's the chosen one of the Almighty. And they made the pact that they were going to try to usurp it. And they actually despise humans because the Almighty chose us to come into us via the Messiah. He came into human form. All right? And this whole 10,000 year, or how many years, 7,000 year process is all about cleansing what the fallen angels did in the beginning, their rebellion. All right, and these people that are trying to say that the antichrist is a person and he's gonna make peace and blah 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 blah. No, they don't have a grasp on what's going on, what the Almighty is telling us, what the Messiah is telling us. This final 7-year consummation of judgment, the beasts are released from the abyss, from their prison, and they're allowed to run amok because the people that are left for the 3.5 years of trumpets, they're unbelievers. So they're getting the wrath because they're unbelievers. And they're getting run over by the beasts because they're not protected, because they're unbelievers. So these sacrifices, there's 2 different sacrifices in Daniel. One's the sacrifice taken away, and the other one, the sacrifice is put to a stop. The sacrifice being taken away is the day of redemption, the 7th seal. The sacrifice being put to a stop is when the 144,000 are killed by the beasts. And then it says that the sacrifice and the grain offering, the offering is when the new believers are killed. That's why there's 2. Because the sacrifice here is the believers, all believers. It's removed. The other sacrifice being put to a stop, it's attached with the grain offering. And it's because the sacrifice, there's the 144,000 are still called the sacrifice because they were actually believers at the time of Christ's return, the Messiah's return. So they're still called the sacrifice, and then their seed is the grain offering. That's their offering. That's their, that's the fruit of their labor. And that's the reason why the days are cut short, so their labor wasn't in vain. If the days weren't cut short, the beast would be able to torture the new believers until they give in, and then no souls would have been saved. But since the days are cut short, the beast can't torture them and they only have a certain amount of days. The new believers, some of them are able to endure, and they're saved. All right. So that's it for now. I hope that helps. Next video, I'm just going to do a little quick short one on the 144,000. Like I said, I need to get all these done before Passover. And I got about 4 or 5 more to do. I'm going to do the 144,000. Then talk about the enemy, who they are, the trumpets, the bowls. Then I'm going to do a recap, play by play. And then the final one I want to do would be basically a reading of Revelation in a prophetic translation. So, alright, take care. Talk to you next time.